because remember I had a 24-hour delay. But yeah,
Yeah.
that's where we left off. We left off basically when we were both at Apple, like that experience of us meeting there for the first time. I got something
Yeah.
funny to say about that.
Go ahead.
So I said this, I think in the last my goal was to like go look at the end of the last stream so I could be like fresh on it.
Yeah, I
But
thought
I
that
didn't
too.
do that. Did you do that?
I wanted to, but like,
Yeah, it's
one of
life,
those days.
yeah, you know how life is. All right, but the one thing I will say, I'm just a little bit of foreshadowing. Okay, it's a little Pixar storytelling uh framework. Out of all the employees that work at Apple, okay, there was like I would say, let's say there was over 100 people that work there. Is that you think that's an exaggeration?
No, I think
Okay,
that's like
at,
about right.
at
I mean,
yeah,
think
at
about at
our
one time.
yeah. So at our particular store, Apple store that we worked at, there was over 100 people. Okay, and somehow me and you connected, but not even just that. This is a little bit of foreshadowing. You came in immediately, and that's how I know that you were on a mission, kind of. And you may not have even fully known your mission, but you were trying to accomplish something where you put
Sure.
together like this little like entrepreneur group. Like you were just like asking people. And I remember I was like one of the last people you asked. They were like, did
Mhm.
Michael ask? And remember, we don't even really fully know each other that well at this moment. People are coming to me
Yeah.
was like, yeah, did Michael ask you about the entrepreneur group yet? I was like, no, he hasn't asked me yet. And you finally came up to me and asked me, and I was like, yeah, like I'll definitely do it. And I just remember there was like maybe 15 people in it from Apple, and we would be at Starbucks.
Yeah.
And by like after a couple of meetings, it was just me and you. And
And
it
look,
was
it's
so
still me and you.
yeah, and it lets you know like not everybody's ready for like that whole like journey of entrepreneurship, but I was ready.
Yeah.
And it's the funny story to now. It's like I'm still in it, you're still in it. So that's just a little bit of like to hook people and to hear the whole story. But I just remember that it was like we were talking about donut shops and because this is the brilliance of it. You didn't come with an idea.
No, I had no
Your
idea. I
premise
was just like,
was if we get a bunch of smart people in a room
yes,
and we
yes.
try to get people in the right seats on the bus, and then we can get a destination for the bus, and we can get some good drivers for the bus. We can start a business that's successful. And I remember the first couple of meetings were just like vetting business ideas. And I
Yeah.
think that's the thing that was scary for people. But that's the thing that was like, I was like, man, this is kind of smart. Like, we're gonna like decide this all together. That's like amazing. So
Yeah. I thought that was a smart move. I mean, there's a lot of smart people at Apple who they all
yeah,
have different talents. And unfortunately, like even whether you work a 9 to 5 or you're an entrepreneur, you're on your own, it's there's always a mindset hurdle.
yeah,
There's always this mindset block, and you have to overcome that block or you're going to stay where you are.
yeah,
And I remember reading John Maxwell's thing, and I did his program, his leadership stuff. And at the time, it helped me realize what I was doing with My City 24/7, that there's a cap to my leadership.
yeah,
Like, I only know so much, and I can only take my team so much, right? So whether that's not necessarily just mindset, but just my leadership
yeah,
capacity,
yeah,
right? And like I have to break that, or I have to find someone to help me get to that
yeah,
who has a higher level than
yeah,
me. And maybe at the time, that's what I was in that group, was just that I was at a higher level than everybody, and they weren't ready to break that cap
yeah,
because I had the app, I had the restaurants, I had,
yeah,
whatever it was. I was just a little bit farther in life. So, but I wish I could imagine. I mean, not everyone would have stayed, right? But if you look at back at some of the people, I was like, man, they are talented. They're just, which I wonder if they regret it. do they regret not like sticking it through right now? I mean, I've been through a lot of ups and downs. You've been through a lot of ups and downs,
Yeah.
but we made it.
Yeah, we made it. I think here's my take after working at Apple. And it's not even just Apple, it's in life in general, but Apple was a great like experiment to be a part of.
Sure.
It was really hard to get a job there, you know, and let's be honest, like I don't think it's like that now because I go into Apple stores now and I don't feel the level of expertise and customer service and just I don't know. It's hard to explain. I don't feel what we gave. Okay, but that's okay. But I feel like Apple was like when people go get their masters in business or their
Mm,
MBA, get their MBA in business, right? And it's a track, right? It's a track that you could follow. You go to college, you follow these steps, go to your classes every semester. Okay, if you want to position yourself to go to this business school or whatever, or this school has an MBA program. And this is not disparaging people who've gone this route. What I'm saying is it's a track. It's a pre-designed set of steps that you can follow that everyone can also give you expertise and guidance in how to get to the next level, right? So it's like Mario Brothers, okay? Like what we did was like Grand Theft Auto. It was like, man, it's like it's open world. Like there's a
mm.
limited tracks. There's unknown levels that you didn't even know. There's unknown bosses that you didn't even know you had to fight. Like you weren't prepared to fight. And it's like, oh, that's a boss. And I think that the people that worked at Apple, the majority of the people that worked at Apple, at least that we worked with, were very talented in the context of win- winning in the system, a system that was designed by other people, Apple executives. To win in a system is great, and that's people who like work jobs, corporate jobs, and move up. There's nothing wrong with that. But entrepreneurship is something totally different. It's literally when it's like, you know what it's like? It's like after the first colonies were started in the United States on the East Coast, right? That all when they were like, "Hey, we're getting away from the king. We're going to start a new world in America." I'm not even talking about the first people that came over. I'm talking about the second group that came over. They came over to cities started by the new people.
Mm.
Entrepreneurs are the people who went out west, Oregon Trail, people that was eating their family members when they were freezing.
Oh
You know
man.
what I'm saying? Like fighting the Native Americans, which I'm not saying that listen, we're not trying to get into the political stuff. That was horrible. My point is just the unknown of the Wild Wild West. Going out to the West and staking your claim to something, you don't even know what it is. Like you don't even know there were bears in this forest. It's like you don't even
Yeah.
know because you were the first
Yeah.
one here. I think that's entrepreneurship, and I think that's different from winning from succeeding in a system. You know,
Right.
we're like making the system as you are moving forward.
You know, funny enough, one time did one of those like for not Halloween, but like fall area where they put you on like a barrel of hay and they drag you through like the fields or whatever,
Yeah,
pumpkin picking, whatever they call it. But
yeah,
there's a name for that like ride, whatever it is. It's a
yeah,
rough ride,
yeah, yeah,
right? Like you're on there and you're like, you're moving around. And funny enough, the guy said, I was like, man, this is a rough ride. He said, yeah, this is what it was like when people went out west, but it was way worse because I go this trail all day, every day, and like I make the tracks. But imagine if this was all field and we had to
yeah,
truck through it. I was
yeah,
like, man, that was a great. So your analogy reminded me of that because it was like, oh my gosh. So it wasn't even just a rough road. There was no road,
yeah,
right? And
exactly,
they're like going over rocks, they're going over
exactly.
dirt, they're going over mountains. And it's like, wow, you had to literally blaze the trail.
Yeah,
So,
and it
but
goes
part
back to
two,
what, yeah, but it
go
goes
ahead.
back to what you said about just the mindset thing. But
Yeah,
yeah, so part two. Well, let's okay. So we can skip through a lot though, because
that's
I really want to get to the part when I moved to California.
perfect.
So we worked at Apple. We became, listen, you started, and if you want to go back, let me know. But we worked at Apple. We have fun at Apple. Um, and you know, we became close. You started the entrepreneur group. It ended up being where it was just me and you. Did a couple of little ideas and little things. One of them was I Survived College, which was a buddy of yours. We became a part of that team. A bunch of different little. We were practicing, right? We were practicing like our relationship. Okay. After 2 years at Apple, I left and moved to California. It's where I'm from originally, so I wanted to go home and live, be in the state I was born. And I think I was out there for about 2 years. So there's a 2 year period where, and I'm actually thinking about this right now. I don't know how long of I worked at Apple about 2 years. I don't know actually when you came in to work at Apple. So maybe we only known each other for a year, but it's when I went to California, I can't remember.
It might have been shorter than that because it may
Yeah,
have been only 6 months.
yeah. But all I know is the whole time I was in California, we kept in touch. Like I think a big part of it was the I Survived College meetings we were having.
Mm.
Because we were like meeting every week for that venture. But all I know is that after 2 years in California, it was kicking my butt. I'm 40 now. This is like over 12 years ago, or this is over like 10, 11, 12 years ago. It was kicking my butt. It was expensive. My kids were young, 2 daughters, kids were young. Like making sure they had like the proper daycare and all that, drive-in traffic, all that. It was like miserable. I was doing a bunch of freelance graphic design stuff and web design stuff while I was there to kind of like make extra money. And my 9 to 5 job was marketing, and it was not really marketing. It was a marketing position, but it was pretty much graphic design. So it was very little like strategy. Like I wasn't doing anything with the website. I didn't have no say in any of like the direction. It was more of like fulfilling graphic design requests for all the insurance agents, right? It just was, but it paid good money, and I did freelance stuff on the side. Then I even worked like at PacSun as a part-time employee. Just it was getting whack. Okay. And I told you,
Feels like
I
Florida
said,
right now.
you said what?
I said it feels like Florida right now. Expensive, traffic. Like that's what I'm going through. I'm like, oh my gosh, what's happening right now? You're like living my life for me.
Listen,
Uh,
but somebody posted something. LinkedIn user.
Hey, a great marketing mind and one of the best designers I've ever met. Yes, he is.
Listen,
Fire.
whoever this is, I appreciate that. My name is
Yeah.
spelled a little wrong, but it's okay. I will never. We're gonna start
Never.
this one. Never gonna, because listen, autocorrect. My name is actually spelled wrong in the world. So there's an O in my name, and it's not how you spell my name, how you're supposed to spell Demetrius, but my family wanted to be different. So thank you, LinkedIn user. We're gonna find out who you are and thank you personally because we're
Yeah.
new to this. Anyway, so oh yeah, autocorrect. Yep, that's why I knew autocorrect. Who is this? I want to know who it is. It says LinkedIn user. We don't know who you are. We want to know.
Secret admirer.
But anyway, uh, long story short is, um, I don't know what I was saying. Oh, I know what I was saying. Um, it just got expensive. It was ridiculous. But I told you, I said, hey man, I'm moving back. This was like probably like 2 months before I moved back. And I remember you said, who? You said, what are you gonna do? Listen, I remember
Mm,
like this was yesterday, man.
go
You said,
ahead.
what are you gonna do? I said, well, I'm hoping that I can just continue to do like this graphic design marketing stuff that I've been doing out here because it seems like there's a need for it. And you said you want to start an agency. And I remember this. I remember you were connected to a guy named Jason Howard who had an agency, but he did video, and you cut me off and filling in the gaps you want to fill in. But long story short, you're like, man, he has a company called Mosaic, and we can have a different version called Mosaic, and like we could just kind of support each other and kind of it was like this weird relationship, but
Yeah,
it was
because
amazing.
he only focused on video production and nothing
Yeah,
else, and,
yeah.
we had the ability to fill in the gaps with web development, with graphic design. I don't know if at the time I was in school for animation,
No, that
maybe I was
wasn't.
done.
I don't think that wasn't yet. You talking about
That was
DePaul?
Yeah, DePaul, yeah.
Yeah, I don't think that was after this.
Okay. So, yeah, yeah, so whatever was going on, we had the ability because at the time, I was done with My City 24/7, didn't really know what to do. I was at Apple, but I figured I wanted to finish my degree because I loved marketing. And some like what you're saying is I thought marketing was websites and graphic design.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
I'm like, man, we gotta go back to school for website graphic. I like it, like, because I like
yeah,
what I did, and I do love art, and I wouldn't say I'm the like a top rated designer myself, but like I understand the theory of design, and I am glad I went to the school to learn that. But very quickly, I learned that wasn't really marketing.
yeah. But to me, it's so crazy that we went through this journey because now it's like there's no substitute for life experience, and there's no substitute. Like, have you ever like been trying to go down a destination, like driving in your car? You're trying to get somewhere. So you're trying to get to a networking event, and you just turn down the wrong street, and it's like a dead end, and you just got to like back up or pull in somebody's driveway and then back up to go the other direction. It's like, you know how many times I've done that?
All time,
Like
yeah,
going
all
down a
the time.
direction and just realizing it's like, dang, this is a dead end, and having to like turn around and then like it's like,
Mm.
bro, I'll never do that. Like, I'll never go down that street again ever. Like when I see that street, it's invisible to me, you know? There's no substitute for that. And I think that goes back to even what I was saying earlier about the people that worked at Apple. No, there was people that worked at Apple that were like us, but just the majority of the people were not those type of people. So, but yeah, I just remember the whole by the time I'll say this, if this was 2 months out when you asked me that, by the time I came back to Ohio, we had our company logo designed. I think it was already an LLC.
Yeah.
We had business card, like there was all this stuff, and we had an office. And there's a quick thing I want to say about this. So number one is I had I'm not even ashamed to say this because it was so long ago. I had to go to Rent-A-Center to get a computer while we lived in California so that I
Mm.
pretty much paid like a weekly amount to have a computer. So like I pretty much paid like $50 million to have a computer. And my computer was pretty decent, right, at the time, but I was paying $50 million to have this computer, right? Because I couldn't afford, my credit was bad. I didn't make enough money really to go out and drop a bunch of money on a decent computer. Because anybody who's ever used Photoshop knows that if your computer can't handle it, just when you make a little move of something, it takes forever and it's like the most miserable thing. I just couldn't do that, right? And I had to have a computer for my job. So long story short, I had to get that boy back because I'm moving back to Ohio. I had to go take it to them, buy here, pay here places, right? And I remember you were like, "Hey man, what you gonna do for a computer?" I was like, "I got to figure something out." You said, "I'm gonna buy you a computer. You just got to pay me
Mm.
back." And at the time, I had sent my wife and kids back to Ohio. So I'm living in California for 30 days by myself because my kids had to start school and all that type of stuff. And my wife had her old job lined up. She went back to her old job. So I'm in California by myself. So I had to drive our car back. And I'll never forget this. I drove 2 days straight to Ohio by myself from California to Ohio. And you were like, meet me at a Starbucks. I met you and Tara. We could talk about Tara if you want. Uh, Met at Starbucks, after a drive where I didn't even stay in a hotel. I just slept on the side of the road for a couple hours
Dang,
when I got
I didn't
tired.
know that part. Yeah.
Yeah. I drove and you handed me, we're in Starbucks and you handed me a brand new Mac, which I did pay you
Boom.
back for. You handed
Yeah.
me a brand new Mac. And I got a funny story to tell you about this Mac really quick. You handed me this brand new Mac. And that to me was you've always kind of been like a generous person, and it's not even the word generous. Like generous is like a part of it, but I think from a business aspect, you were willing to invest in things that could work out. And I think that was an investment in our business relationship. Not meaning that it didn't have nothing to do with our personal relationship. I don't think you would just do that for anybody, but it was like, if we're gonna do this together, dude, and I believe in your talent, like I need you to have a computer.
Hey, if we're gonna make this work, you need the best, man.
Yeah. So that computer, it's so funny. I'm gonna say something. This is how powerful that computer was. The computer I have now, the computer I'm on now, my laptop, because this was beefed out. I beefed this boy out too. That this is only my second. This is the computer right after that computer. Does that make sense? Like
Yeah.
that computer lasts me like 5 years, 5 or 6 years, because it was so specced out to the point where like this computer, I'm actually about to get another one very soon, probably in January. But this computer that have right now, this Mac, is only one computer removed from that. And the person I sold that other computer to, he's actually selling it back to me. And the reason he's selling it back to me is because what you did for me, I kind of did for him. I kind of like, hey man, I'm gonna just kind of give you this for like the low. And
Yeah.
he moved up and he's like, and I went to his album release party a couple weeks ago. And I was like, you still got that computer? He was like, yeah. I was like, I want to buy it back from you. He was like, bro, just name a price. I'll give it to you, whatever. He was like, you know how much music I made on that computer? I was like, bro, you know how much money I made on that computer? So
It was
I'm
blessed.
getting it
It was a
back.
money-making machine. It was a
It was a
money-making
money-making
machine.
machine, man. It was a money-making machine. Like it really was. That computer changed my life. I know that sounds so weird because it wasn't just a computer, but it was like the computer and all the other stuff going around. But bro, the amount of stuff that was done on that computer for like what we was working on to be successful, man, it was so it's coming back into my hands and it's gonna be in my life forever now.
Yeah, I feel like that's nostalgic. You have to
It
like keep
is.
it.
It is. Because you know what happened during that time? Again, I know this is like part two, but we could jump in whenever you want. But there's something that happened during that time. And I don't want to jump ahead too much. It's kind of hard to do in chronological order at this point because there's so
Yeah.
much amazing things that happen. But that time, there was all these, you were talking about like a ceiling, right? And leadership and all that, right? But there's also like a ceiling and just like belief in general, meaning
Mm,
like, how much money can you make off of something, right? You had a higher belief than me. So like I remember one of
mind
our
mindset. Keep
yeah.
going.
So listen, I'll never forget this. This is a great story because I tell the story to this day.
So
This
do
was like,
I.
and I
Go
want you,
ahead. Where you
and
going?
I'm gonna talk about Doggy Bag Monthly.
Yeah.
And
Or the one before
no,
that too was
well, who was before? Wait, was We Love Snobs
We
before
Love
that?
Snobs. Yeah.
I think it was the other way around, dude.
Okay. It's been a
Let me
long
tell you
time.
why I
So
think it was the
maybe
other way around. I could be wrong, but
mm,
let me tell you why I think it was the other way around. And there's something brilliant you did, but we're gonna talk about that after because you said you were still at Apple. There was a brilliance in that. Okay.
oh yeah.
So Doggy Bag Monthly, just I'm not gonna say how we got them to have a meeting with us because I want kind of you to tell that part of how you built out this sales force, this secret sales force. But but I just want to talk about this one aspect of this. So there's this client that somehow was like inquired that they needed a website, they needed like all this stuff, right? And this is way before we was doing like marketing systems and funnels and all that type of stuff. This was just like more like brand identity, building out different, different online tools, websites and stuff like that, logos and all that, right? Packaging and things like that, right? So we got this client and they were telling us it was a husband and wife, and we had an office. By the way, I see Angelo today, earlier today. The guy who owned our office. I still have lunch with him on a monthly basis. We had an office with a conference room, so we're in a conference room with this couple, and this is I still think this is I'm still believing that this is our first client. You said the other one might be, but the reason I think this was the one was our first client because the story I'm about to tell is what made us do what we did with this other second client. So I remember we were in a conference room and we were just kind of like, none of us really fully been here, but like we were savvy enough and you were savvy enough where we were able to navigate. So we weren't like sounding stupid. And they were just asking us like how much it's going to cost. And I remember you were like, all right, let us go down and just deliberate really quick. We'll be right back. Which I didn't know if like that was weird or not. Like I didn't know not, but anyway, they're like, yeah, fine. So we went down in our office, right? So the conference room is upstairs.
Yeah.
So we had our own office with multiple rooms in it. So I had a room, you had a room. We went into your office and we were standing there. Now, this is no strategy. Like we weren't crunching numbers or nothing. You were just like, I think it's 6,000. I was like, that's not too much. In my mind, I'm like, bro, what you saying? That I think we can do 6,000. I'm like, man, maybe we can't. Okay, let's do it. Like I'm getting all excited. And then you were like, wait, let's do 11. I'm like, where'd you get that number from? I think we can do it. So I'm like, I ain't gonna be the person that's gonna be the negative person. So I was like, okay. So we go upstairs and I'm like nervous. My heart's beating. I'm like, this dude about to say $11,000. like I'm like out of body experience. And you were like, we went upstairs just like, yeah, I think like with a straight face, you were like, yeah, I think we can probably get that done for about 11,000. They were like, okay, sounds good. After the meeting, you were like, we could have got more. Because they was like, yeah, let's do it. But my point is that multiple things happened. My brain was like, what? You can get $11,000 for building a website? Like, I mean, you got to realize, like, I was doing like $200, $300 websites in California. You know what I'm saying? I did the most expensive thing I've ever done is I did this program, big, thick, huge book for this church, and I charged them $1,100. And the only reason I charged them $1,100 is when I gave the lady the price, she came back and said, dude, I've been working with you too long. You give me good prices. I cannot pay you this low. You're not a slave. Like she had to look out for me because it wasn't her money. It was the church that she worked for's money. So she just had to look out for me and said, dude, so that was always me. So I don't know, man. I just think that to me. So I always go back to that moment because I think entrepreneurs need some version of that moment in their journey of
it's like a belief. It's like you broke your belief system.
It's like I didn't even know that it was broken. Like I mean, I didn't even know that it was a flaw. Like I didn't even know.
A false belief. You're like, I can't get paid enough. All right. Yeah. And we got it.
All right. There's two things I need a favor from you. So number one is I want you to tell the story of kind of like it was like a little strategy at Apple to get us some salespeople. Yeah. And then I want you to kind of tell the story of the We Love Snobs part, because that was like What, that was like 2 or 3 weeks later.
Yeah, we got these clients right back to back. So one, I loved Apple, and I don't even know at the time if I needed to work at Apple or like what was going on. But what I realized is that there was so much, we'll say, potential clients coming in because they're all business clients who needed a phone and the one-to-ones and the trainings, and their computers are messed up. And I remember like looking at it as like there's an opportunity here. So I remember talking just to a handful of people, and I don't even know if they were on, because Apple has the business team. I don't even know if they were on the business team, but I was just like, hey, look, if someone ever mentions anything that they need help, let me know and I'll throw you a kickback. And I said it would be significant. And I remember, and funny enough, I still, up until last month, had a client, executive, them, we've
Oh,
done
yeah.
a lot of work with them.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So last month he reached out to me and just said, "Hey, look, man, the corporate took over all of the marketing. We really really enjoyed working with you. If we have any side projects that we're allowed to do, I'll let you know." Which is
Yeah,
awesome, right? Like
yeah,
how many 8 years, 10 years? I don't even know how
yeah.
long it was,
We've been
right?
we've
But
been
that's
to his house and everything.
yes, and
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
it only moves executives and
yeah,
whatever it was. So I still had that, but that came from Apple,
yeah.
right?
Oh, okay.
So yeah, so if you didn't know that, that came from Apple. As as we begin to work on Doggy Bag Monthly, you're right, right? We have this new belief of like, man, we can do it. And we got introduced to, and were they always We Love Snobs, or are they a different name
Well,
now?
they were style. They turned into Style Loop.
Okay, so it was We Love Snobs.
It
So
started
We
off
Love
with We Love
Snobs
Snobs, and
came,
there was like that controversy that we had to come in and do some stuff that we didn't know we were supposed to do, and then they changed their
right.
name after that.
Yeah.
Which I don't know if
So
you want to get into all that, but
no, I think it's good because I think that
yeah,
positions like our no fluff jar type
yeah, oh,
things. That's what that was.
yeah,
I still use that to this day too. There were
yeah,
so many fundamental things that as we go through our man, and I'll go into this other story too, but so many fundamental things that happen in the beginning of like the process of going through, like it's the blazing of the trail, right? The road.
yeah,
And it is scary when you don't, you do two, 300, $500 websites and be like, 11,000, I need this 500, man.
yeah,
All I want is 500, right? So We Love Snobs come in and we're sitting there, and I think we do the same thing. I think we're in
yeah.
the meeting.
But we
They
never
come to
left the
us.
meeting.
Oh, we never left the meeting. I don't remember. All I
Maybe we
know
did.
is,
Maybe we did. Maybe we did. Go ahead. I'm sorry, I cut you off. Go ahead.
yeah. So they come in, they need a website. They have this big facility in North Olmsted, and it's just almost like a warehouse. It's not no
Yeah,
retail space. And
yeah,
what We Love Snobs did was they were a consignment shop for high-end retail, which Louis Vuitton and all the big brands, people would come in, give them the dresses, give them the purses. They would resell, keep a commission, and it worked great. So they only, at the time, it was only online.
yeah. Because it was
And
national. Because they would send you a box if you were out of state.
right.
So it wasn't just even Ohio. It was like they were a national company.
Yeah. Which was cool. I love the name We Love Snobs. Like I
Yeah,
thought that was catchy, trendy, for what they're doing and their target market or whatever. All right. So we're in there and they're saying that they need a website. They need, graphics, whatever they need. And again, I don't know if we left or if we had this conversation before, but while we're in there, I changed the number like on top.
you
So
did.
I think we were going 6 or 9 again. And from what I remember, I was like 30, 40.
Yeah,
It
but
was
this is
one of
why you
those numbers.
changed it. This is why they changed it. I remember this detail. And yes, you that did happen. We gave them
On the
initial.
fly. I don't even know if I asked you. I was just
You
like
didn't.
40.
You didn't ask me. That's what I was
Uh,
trying to say. You didn't. That's why I don't think we left. There was 5 of them, there was 5 people from We Love Snobs, and one of them was like this very, I would say eccentric, flamboyant CEO.
Mm,
And they already dropped $20,000 on a website, remember? And
that's right.
the guy did a decent job, but he didn't finish the stuff, and he was like unresponsive. And it was getting to the point where they were gonna like sue this person. And they needed to launch. So they were desperate. So I remember that's when you was like, okay. And the guys, I remember you set a price, and it was like 20 grand or something, like a crazy 25 grand. I remember your logic was, well, if you pay him 20, we're gonna do it. We're not doing it for less than what you paid him. And I remember after you were like, why did they tell us that they paid this person 20? Like you gave us the information we needed. We're like, now that's the bottom. But then when you said the price, I remember the dude was like, and we need this done in 30 days. And that's the type of person he was. He was like demanding, and he was
Yeah.
like demanding it in your face. So I think when he said that, and we need it in 30 days, like you were like, okay. And yeah, you said 33,000.
It's gonna be an additional
Yeah. And they
10
said,
grand
okay,
to move
no
immediately.
proposal, no
Not
proposal, no nothing. In the meeting in real time, it went from 20 something thousand to 33. And in my head, it's like back and forth to like what was going. And it was just like, I'm like, and it was, and I remembered, and this was another level that my brain allowed me to be able to go to that I realized was
yeah.
possible. And my earning potential since those 2 moments, and there was other successes too, but those are the 2 moments because that was within 60 days of us starting a business. This is 60 days from me doing $500 websites, $200 websites, logos for $75. This isn't, let's just imagine the person's brain who was designing a logo for $125, and then now you're doing a full project, and it was only me and you doing a full project for $33,000. And then even beyond that, there was even more money that they paid us for other additional projects after that. I think we were up to like 60 grand at some point with them. So
Yeah. Yeah, and the moment you were talking about, like, there were some pivotal moments out of that relationship that came too. So that flamboyant CEO, the demanding guy, he was tough to deal with, but we saw some holes that were happening as we were trying to get decisions done and trying to make, finish the project. We saw there were some issues. So we sat down with their marketing manager or their CMO, whoever that lady was at the time, and I remember I read it in a book, something about like no fluff. And I remember going to the store and I bought this jar and I put cotton balls in it and I taped, like, I just wrote with marker, no fluff jar. And I taped it on there. And we had this meeting with her. And I put the jar down. I said, listen, this represents we are not holding back. There's no fluff. We want to see you guys succeed. And if there's some areas of opportunity or some issues, we're going to let you know. And this right here is giving us permission, as long as she gave permission. I was like, is it okay if we do the no fluff
yeah, it
jar?
was like an
And
agreement.
it was totally an agreement, right? The Apple steps of service, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Apple
yeah.
permission, right? So I
Yes,
asked,
yeah,
and she said yes. And what happened was, we saw, I think that's when our relationship, we would say, like, broke open and became very, and I don't want to say vulnerable, but like, everything we were telling her, she's like, oh my gosh, I've been thinking the same thing, I've been seeing the same stuff, but I was afraid to say it or afraid to speak up. And come to find out, as weeks or a few days progressed, the guy, I think, was embezzling money and like was taking money, and they had to let him go. And
yeah.
he left them in a very hard spot because they necessarily were about to lose everything.
Listen, go ahead, go ahead. No, you finish.
With that being said, we were able, and I think that's how we even got even more money, because we said, hey, look, let's come in. We have retail experience. We both worked at Apple. We understand the customer journey, experience, marketing. You have a website. let's utilize this right now to leverage maybe a retail store.
Yep.
And that came with a new name, that came with a new logo, that came with
Yep.
a new brand.
Yep.
And it was so, I guess when you think about case studies, right? Like I had a client or a prospect come to me yesterday, and they're like, "Hey, do you have any case studies?" And I think about a good case study. Oh my gosh, We Love Snobs is solid because
Yeah.
we took them from almost like almost losing their business to they had, I want to say, almost three retail stores, if I
Yeah.
remember.
Well,
And
there's something you're leaving out that gives us, man, this is another, for me personally, an element that, like, I was like, oh, okay, now I'm really starting to see what business really is. Because
mm,
we was going into the marketing world, but there's something different between a marketing agency and like operating a business. But just in general, operating a business, right? Because not all businesses are marketing agencies. Our business
mm,
happened to be one, but I remember during that time they came to us and said, "Hey, all the work that we've done has to be is dead because the person was embezzling money, that we had to fire our CFO. We're in this retail, we're not even a retail space, we're in this office building, and they had, like you said, it was like a warehouse. They're like spending like $7,500, $8,000 a month on rent, and it went from 5 people down to 2 people, two people running the company. And I remember they brought us into the office, and this is where you gave the no fluff jar, and they said, I remember it was a joke, but they were like, "Can you guys be our CEO? Like, can you guys run our company? Like, we don't know what to do." And in my brain, it's funny how, like, when we sat in that meeting in the conference room, and they're like, "Yeah, we need this stuff tomorrow, and we're gonna make $1 million, and how much you guys gonna charge us? And you better do it right." And I'm like, all like, "Dang, okay, yeah, we gotta," you know what I'm saying? Like, you're that person to, like, a month later, they're like, "Can you guys literally help us save our company? Because we don't know what to do." And I remember that's when you came up with the no fluff jar. And that's when we came in and we were doing non-marketing stuff. We were
yeah,
interviewing their employees to see what people did. I'm not
yeah,
sure, I don't know if you remember this.
I
There
do
was a
remember.
there was a
Yeah.
photographer they were paying $5,000 a month.
Oh
And there
my
was
gosh.
another person, I don't even remember what they were. They were getting paid like $5,000 a month, and we don't even remember what their purpose was. And we sat down with them, and you said, "We don't want to be these type of people, but you need to let those people go because that's 10 grand a month you're paying, and you don't even have a business right now. Like, you don't have an operating business right now." And then we linked them up with our lawyer, and then
Mm,
he got them out of their space, and he got them into our where our office was. So that's just a little part how we got them in a new situation. And it wasn't necessarily like they didn't do anything, but like how we were just doing business. We were just being strategic. We were being entrepreneurs. We were trying to solve problems. And sometimes the problems were outside of like what we said our scope of work was. And then from there, we even helped them get into their new big space, which is an adult place in
yeah,
Rocky River, right?
yeah.
And they had to come up with numbers and all they had to come with all this type of stuff. And we helped them get into there. And I remember the logo, it was a team effort, but the I just remember the logo. This is the first time a logo that I designed was like a sign. Do you
On a
remember this
building.
out on the building? It was beautiful. And it
It
looked
was
good. It was lit up, and they didn't get the cheap sign because
mm-mm.
it was in a higher end area. They had to get one of those signs. They got the lights behind it, and it was like the individual cutout letters. Like, it wasn't like just like a vinyl thing with a light behind it. And I remember going to take pictures of it. And every time I would pass it, I would drive into the parking lot just to look at it, but like, I made that. So I don't know. Those are all great moments, man.
Yeah, years later, I would go back. Even when I lived in, lived in Columbus for a little bit. I would come back to Rocky River to see if they were still there, and I don't know if they're there or not. But I remember seeing them, and I'm like, dang, it's years ago. I love that. I guess at its core, with all of that being said, it's funny because someone told me this about a month ago, or maybe even longer. Yeah, I will say 6 months. I'm horrible with time. But he said, there's three types of people. There's givers, there's takers, and they're matchers, right?
Mhm.
And he said, he asked me the question. He said, "Who do you think are the most successful out of the three?" And it was like a trick question. Well, I said, at first I'm thinking like it's the takers, right? Because they take everything. They're the most successful. Then he asked me, "Well, who do you think is the least successful?" And I said, "Well, it's probably the givers because they're like not getting anything; they're just giving it away." And the trick question behind that was, he's like, "It's actually both. It's the givers who are the most successful, but they also are the least successful. And the matchers are the people who like will only do something for you if you do something for them, right?"
Yeah.
So he asked me, "So when you work with those type of people, how does it feel?" I was like, "Oh, it never feels fair." All right. It's always like, oh, I got it. Like, there's always have to be some, you know, reciprocating factor
Yeah. Yeah,
to like do
exactly.
something, right? And the takers, it feels like trash because they all they do is suck you dry. I said, but when you work with a giver, it feels great, right? So as I think about how we work with other people, it's like we're givers, man. We give and
They
give and
are.
give, and when we're able to connect with other givers, then success is like exponential because all we're
Yeah.
doing is giving on top of each other.
Yeah.
So as you say that, I think about that, like, no, we it's not only that we stayed in our lane, we saw that there was a need, and we fulfilled
Yeah.
that need.
Yeah. I agree. There's something you said. I remember having that conversation where because you called me after you had a conversation with that person and you gave me the same quiz because I think we had a conversation, but prior to that, where I told you that my dad told me that he said, givers give, takers take. And then
Mhm,
you had another element where you're like, well, there's a matcher. I was like, oh,
mhm,
okay. You know what I'm saying? So I agree with that. But that leads me to another thing that I learned, which kind of is based off what you just said, but there's like these epiphany bridges that you go across. Like, you get an aha moment, and then you're able to bridge it to a whole nother level, right? You're able to go to the next level based off that epiphany, right? And the whole matcher thing, that's great for people who are matchers are great at networking
mm,
because when you find other matchers, you realize that, and you're going to agree with this. And you actually used to say this back in the day, but it's so true. The person who's the penny pincher, or the person who doesn't have an abundance, or the person who is not used to having money, making money, understanding what money can do for them, and they don't understand that time is the most important resource. It's a finite resource. You can't make more of it. When you network with those people, you don't have to worry about sometimes losing. Because I've sent proposals. I've had a guy say, "Hey, I got this gig I can get you locked in on. I need you to send me a proposal. Um, do it for about 15 grand." And in my brain, I'm like, I would have did it for 7,500. And it's like, hey, just put it for 15 grand. I can push it through. And it's like one of those situations where it's like you kind of bypass all the like haggling. He's like, hey, look, I know what 15 grand can get us.
mm.
I know it's more than you would charge me. And because I like you, because we have this relationship where we match each other's energy, I know you're gonna figure out a way at some point in the future to like make it worth my while in some sort of way. And you start to find, and it becomes easier to make money because you got all these connections with all these matchers, and they understand that like 15 grand is not a lot. You know what I mean? And then when you get to the point, which I'm not fully there yet, when you get to the point of outsourcing and all that type of stuff, then you really get to see like, well, if I get that $15,000 job, $20,000 job, and it's only going to cost me 3,500 maybe to do it from a standpoint of labor, all I'm doing is managing a relationship with the matcher. And I think that that's the thing that I realized, that when I go out and I network with people, because Angelo, to this day, Angelo always sends me stuff. He's
Mm.
like, "Hey, there's a person looking for this. Oh, you want a kickback? You want like a commission? No, it's okay. Just don't just do right by them. You know what I'm saying? Because I sent them, I sent you to them, or I sent them to you, or whatever. Now, obviously, the benefit for him is he's the guy that knows who has a guy. You know what I'm saying? Like, hey, I know a guy who can do that marketing for you. So Angelo becomes valuable if I can do the job. But again, that to me, I just think that's just matching. So
Well, I think it's a different look on that when they say matchers. Like, I get what you're saying,
all right,
but
tell
I
me,
think
break it down.
so. One, I think the guy that said, "Hey, let me give you 15 grand," I think he's a giver, right? That's what
Hey,
I think.
okay.
Because a matcher, not necessarily, if you think about the word, and maybe the word is wrong, but that's how it was explained to me.
Yeah.
But but when you think of like matching, it's like, oh, let's connect you with you, right? That's like you think that way. But the way it was explained to me, the matcher is more like I have to match what you give me, right? So I'm not gonna do nothing for you unless you do something for me.
Oh, I see what
So
you're saying.
there is those type of people. Like
I
they
see what you're
won't
saying.
even make a connection for you unless you're gonna give me a connection or you're gonna give me something out of it. And you're
I
like,
see what
damn,
you're
dude, I
saying.
just need, you know what I'm saying? So that's the difference of how that's explained in that like giver, matcher, taker. So the point of that whole what he told me was he said, listen, you need to get rid of all the takers in your life. If you have takers in your life or your business, get rid of them. They're no good. They're not gonna make you feel anything. They're just gonna take from you. And it's true. It's like I've done like a detox of some people that are in my life, and like I don't know, I just feel less stress, less
Yeah,
anxiety, whatever
yeah,
the reason is. I don't know. Well,
yeah,
as I'm just saying, I did a detox.
yeah.
The other part of it was um he said the matchers, you just have to be careful with the relationship you have with them
I see
because
what you're
it's going
saying.
to feel dirty, right? Like when
Yeah,
you work with them, it's just like, oh, well, I do this for this guy, or like, he wants something out of this. It just doesn't feel clean. He says
yeah.
so the best relationships are going to come when a giver finds another giver because then you guys are just going to amplify each other's energy,
I
which makes
see.
sense.
Yeah, I do see. I see what you're saying. I think that's where the matching is, like you match each other's energy, is where I got confused with the matcher. But I get what you're saying now. And yeah, so swap the word out of my story. Anybody who's listening, just
It's meant to be a
swap the
giver.
word. Yeah, just use the word giver. But it makes it makes it less. I found it's easier to make money now than it was before, and I'm doing less stuff. It's
Yeah.
like, and it's just
Well, I
like
think I think this is part 3. I think part 3 leads into where are you today?
that's a
Like,
good, that's
that's a
good,
good one,
that's a
right?
good
Because
part three.
we've came up to the part of we both had our separate paths.
Yeah,
We met, we've had success together. Now what happens?
yeah. And I would
'Cause
say,
I
and
think
I would just say one thing. I would say, how long ago do you think that we kind of like parted ways as far as business? Meaning, not we still did business together, but I mean like we weren't business partners. I had my own business, you had your own business. How long ago you think that was?
well, I've had my own agency right now. I'm rocking on 4 years.
Okay. Well, it was before that even too.
Yeah, it was
I
before
would say
that
7.
because
I would say 7 years.
solid 7.
7 years where we still kept a relationship. We still did stuff together. We just kind of just had our own ideas of some of the stuff we wanted to explore, which to me is natural for any type of people. I just think it's just natural. And our personality types are so different. Like we kind of had to do
So
that. It's not even a negative. It's just like we're we're polar opposites as far as our personality types. You're organized, you're more I'm more gut feeling, I wing things. I still do come from a sense of strategy, and like I'm not just out here making stuff up as I go along. but I am definitely more of a freestyler. You're a different, you have a different part of your brain you use, and but we complement each other really well.
For sure.
So I just wanted to leave it there so that people can kind of know that when we start, because we didn't tell that part of the story where we kind of just like said, hey man, I think I want to do some different type of business stuff and you want to do some different type of business stuff, but we always remained close. Like I would consider us like brothers. Like I say that like we're like brothers, like not in a sense of like we grew up together, but like it's
Yeah, I
beyond
know.
a friendship. You know what I'm saying? It's like the next level of friendship. You know what I'm saying? So
Well, it's funny because yeah, I've heard the old saying before where they said, just because your blood doesn't make you family,
yeah, yeah,
right? And like, I think now that I'm more mature, I understand it even more now, right? It's like just because we're related doesn't mean, we're close or we even
yeah,
should be close,
yeah, yeah.
right? Um, yeah, but I think that leaves us to part three. I think that's the next piece of this puzzle.
I agree. I agree. You want to?
All
Do
right.
you want to?
So
I know we want to
stay
close. What do you want to say?
I said, so stay tuned for part three.
No, absolutely. Did you want to talk about your idea real quick, or did you want to wait till part three?
No, we can talk about it because this just relates to like what like the podcast is and what this is meant to be. And like, it's like there's so many avenues and directions it can go. And I know like you said before, like, hey, like does it have to be so structured where you got this outline and this is the topic and da da da, which no, I think free flowing is best. I think we get, we have a lot to give, and I think we again complement each other. But with that being said, I was doing a training about membership sites,
Oh man,
and
that's my next
you're doing
business, by the way. Go ahead. That's my next
membership.
business I
Okay,
want to launch
so
is a
let me.
membership.
All right, so when I looked at the membership framework on how to keep people in the membership, right? Because it's
Yeah,
bringing people in is the easiest, right? It's
yeah,
just have a great offer, a great
yeah,
message, and but how do you get people to stick? And
yeah.
as I thought about that and how it relates to this, I think it has a lot of similarities. So there's
Okay,
this framework that says, all
I'm
right, if
in.
it's
I'm in. I'm down.
you're in already.
Go ahead. Finish it though. I'm already
All
in.
right. So the structure
I
falls
get. I'm
into like
confused in my head.
four pieces. So the first piece is repair. The second piece is improvement. The third piece is replacement. And the fourth is like some type of ascension, right? Or something about that. So when I thought about that, I was like, oh my gosh, so what if we look at the podcast as, we're going live every week, what if the week is like week one is about repair? Like what's going wrong or what's happening that you have to repair, whether it be us, whether it be out in the world, but like something's wrong with my website, something's wrong with or something you learned, like whatever, right? So I thought about repair, right? Maybe that's the first section of it. And maybe the second week is about some improvement, right? Like how do you make things better, right? Like you're going through Go High Level and you're loving Go High Level. Now, Go High Level could also be replacement because that could be the third week, but it's like, hey, let's think about something that like, what are we doing right now that's this replacement of a new opportunity that's happening or like stuff like that. So in the ascension part, I don't really know about other than like a backstage. I love like people can leave comments and we can drop it up there. And like week four, bring all your questions live and we'll answer on marketing, Google
Yeah,
Ads,
yeah.
Facebook funnel, whatever it is. But as I looked at the structure of like repair, improvement, replacement, I was like, oh my gosh. So they say inside your membership, that's what it should be. The first week should be something about repairing something. Second week is about improving what you repaired. And then like the third week is about a replacement or this new opportunity, new software, new thing. And then
Does it
somehow
loop around?
it
Does
loops
it?
around. So every
Okay.
month it's something different.
Okay.
So I
Hey,
thought that was good. I was like,
I
that's
like it.
solid.
So what you're saying is that we're starting a membership.
Hey, I don't know.
Oh,
All I'm saying is,
that's what I was agreeing to. I thought that's what you were
oh, yes.
saying.
But that's what this could be though, right? Like,
Yeah.
so there could be, when I think about the podcast though, like there's no structure to it, but there's something around like repairing, there's something
Yeah,
around
yeah. I see what
improving.
you're saying though.
Yeah, that piece. But this totally can
Well, I
be
just
like,
literally said before that me and you are yin yang. I'm more freestyle. You like structure. And what did you do?
yeah,
I came to you and said, "Hey, it should be no structure." And then you
yeah,
said, "Here's a structure." But this is the difference between the years of being close with each other. It's like a compromise. I
right.
like that structure because guess what? Freestyling don't work all the time.
Yeah.
So I'm
Sometimes
down
we
with.
can,
I love it. Okay, well then
yeah,
I would say honestly, like we don't gotta like I always go back to the social network movie where there was like, we want to run ads. And he's like, what? You're gonna ruin the party.
you gotta be
Like,
cool for it. Right.
yeah.
Yeah.
So maybe we just explore that aspect of the membership as we start to get some traction and give a lot of value to people and build up our name. But I, I would love to build a community behind what we're doing. I mean, honestly, like the people who are listening to this are entrepreneurs. So we want to monetize. Like we want to figure out a way to make money from what we're doing. But for me, I just think that all the tricks have been figured out. And not saying that we did tricks before, but the only way you can be successful is to give value. You have to provide value and solve problems for whoever your audience is. And I think that there's no all the tricks in the book, all the funnel tricks and all the funnel hacking tricks and all the different offers you can put together and the headlines and all that. That stuff is great for stopping people in their tracks and getting them to pay attention to what you're saying. But ultimately, you have to solve a problem and you have to give value. I think me and you are really good at that. And I think that all the years of experience that we have combined and separate it's like millions of dollars worth of experience. And
Because
I would
dealing in
love
some
I'm about
dollars.
look, bro. I turned 40. I know I keep getting on everyone's nerves.
Sheesh.
I turned 40 8 days ago, and it's like I have a lot to offer as far as knowledge and saving time, headache, money, divorce, arguments, like whatever,
Yeah.
like cars repoed, like evictions. I've never been evicted. Nothing. All I'm saying is I can save you that for other people.
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
and so can you. Like you know what I'm saying. So I just think that we should try to parlay this into some sort of structure like that. And I love your framework you came up with. So
Yeah, because I was thinking about how even our pod, like, when we get on the phone, when we just talk, we're like, oh my God, this would be a podcast, right? Before we did this, right? So it was like I would call you and I would say, dude, let me just tell you what I just figured out,
yeah,
right? Like a repair or an improvement. And then you would call me and be like, oh no, I came to you again. And I was like, dude, I got something replacement for all funnels,
yup,
go high level. And you're like, what? And it was like, then we go deep into that. So our conversations have been structured that way without being structured that way. Because
yeah.
every time I called you, it was about something I learned, something new, or something I knew how to fix. And it was like, man, that's exactly what the framework is for the membership. And it just makes total sense.
And also our conversations have made me money, and our conversations have made you money.
Oh, for sure.
Just me and you. It's an audience of two. And I get off the phone, I'm like, oh, looks like that's what I'm doing now. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? So I just feel like that in this form, plus with your structure, plus with some sort of membership that we can create at some point in the future, maybe next year, like I think that people would be game for that because I think it's the no fluff
But
jar,
why wait
really.
till next year? Why wait till
What?
next year?
Well, when I mean next year, I mean like January. Like
Oh, okay.
we already in December, dude.
2 weeks away. All right, I forgot.
Yeah,
There's no
yeah.
time
I
limit
mean,
right now.
like,
They could be
yeah,
listening to this podcast 5 years ago, right?
yeah,
Or 5 years from now.
yeah. I'm just saying that, like, I just feel like our knowledge it can be successful, but I think it's the no fluff jar. We have the no. I'm not saying it's the name, but we have the no fluff membership. Like, we're gonna tell you all the secrets. We're gonna tell you all the little stuff that Ty Lopez told you that ain't gonna work. But we're gonna tell you the stuff that Ty Lopez said that is gonna work. Like, this is not the all or nothing. This is like the nuance. It's like, hey, Russell Brunson says this. He's trying to sell a software, but these 5 things, these things can make you rich. You know what I'm saying? Like, I just feel like I don't hear no one doing that. They always pick like Gary V. And then it's like, oh, I'm a Gary V. That's Gary V is my boyfriend. I love him so much. It's like, no, listen, Gary V said that thing. Let's dissect that. That seems like BS to me. But this thing that Gary V said, I've actually seen that work. Why can't we do that? Why can't we be honest and genuine and save people time, money, and sweat?
For sure.
And arguments.
Yes.
And overdraft fees.
Yes. And evictions.
I know.
All right, man. Well, we're good. So part 3 coming up is going to be the transition between the success we had, and then, because I think you went back to California, I went to Columbus, like all of that started happening, and then we both have different journeys from there.
Yep. All right, part 3 is where we are now and how we're doing now and all that good stuff.
Yeah, to present day.
Yep. All right, man.
See you.
See ya.